Hello, welcome back to the Project Hercules Diaries. Now this is another welder special. This is a new MiG 250 welder from Artec and I've just bought it. I spent the whole day putting it together, assembling the trolley because I bought the trolley for it as well, putting the gas on, reading the instructions, wiring it up, fitting the wire, and it's a cracking piece of kit. Well, I say that. It appears to be a cracking piece of kit, having not used it yet. Now, I went for a MIG welder rather than a TIG welder. I've had MIG welders in the past, and I can do a reasonable job with a MIG welder, probably because it's easy. And I don't do enough welding to be as competent as somebody like Neil who does it all the time. Now, I've also got a TIG welder, and the TIG welder went on the fritz. And so I saw the Artec people at one of the stalls at the Practical Classic show. It just seemed like a really good stand, really knowledgeable people, some fantastic kit that they've got. And I would have bought the next one up, which was a combined MIG and TIG, but I just couldn't justify the extra spend for the amount of welding I do, and I couldn't afford it. Bit of both, really. So I thought, let's just go back to MIG. And a friend of mine says, well, why don't you just open the cover of your TIG welder and see if it's a stuck relay or something you can fix. I did that, and I've managed to fix the TIG welder as well. So I've now got the best of both worlds. I've got a really good solid brand MIG welder, and I've managed to fix my TIG welder so I can chop and change between the two. So I'm going to try that next in a few minutes and just start practicing with it. And when I've got enough confidence with it, then I'll have a go at welding on that oil tank. But so far so good, and I'm very impressed. The issue I found with the TIG welder, I'll show you that just over here. This is what a TIG welder looks like when you take the cover off. Now, it's not an Artec, it's a slightly different brand, Chinese, so it was a fair bit cheaper, but I was still surprised when I took the cover off at how much is inside of it electronics wise. Certainly beyond my ability in terms of troubleshooting. There's no way I would be able to troubleshoot a board like this, but I was looking for basics from first principles. Let's trace through all the wires, let's check all the connectors, and lo and behold, I found that black wire there on that connector had broken off, and so it was simply a case of refitting and resoldering that black wire there, which is within my capabilities. Now, I've tested it and it works. Tested it very carefully because obviously there's no cover on, and before anybody posts around health and safety, it's definitely unplugged. It's always been unplugged when I've got my fingers inside, and it was unplugged for a while as well, because I know that some of these have got some quite large capacitors in, and you can still get a belt off them even 5-10 minutes after they've been turned off. So if you're thinking of doing anything like this at home, make sure everything's turned off, make sure it's properly earthed, make sure it's been off for a while, and don't put your fingers in when it's turned on. I know it's obvious, but I think sometimes just worth pointing these things out, isn't it? So the problem that it had was that the electrode on the lance was always live. Whether you press the button or not, it was always live. So when you press the button, it would start the gas flow, but it wouldn't give you a HF start on the button. You had to do a scratch start, and that's really not an option with TIG, because as soon as you touch that electrode onto the job, it instantly melts itself to the job. And if you've ever tried TIG welding, it's one of the first and easiest mistakes to make, is to touch that tip onto the job, and it melts into a blob. You have to wiggle it to get it off, and then take it out and take the walk of shame to the grinder, and then grind it back into a point. So having it as a scratch start really meant it was destined for the big scrapyard in the sky, but I managed to salvage it, so I'm really chuffed about that. So I've now got a nice new MIG welder and an old Chinese TIG welder that now still works again, and hopefully with a bit of practice I will be at least good enough to get by. Certainly Mr. Blobby's Welding Emporium, here we come, hurrah. So that's a tale of two welders. That's another little job that's been done. Some money's been spent. I don't normally spend a fortune. For example, most of the machines that I operate were all free. That Myford over there was free of charge. That drill was free of charge, as was the long stem for it. So, you know, if you shop around, things do occasionally come to you and you don't have to spend a fortune. But when it comes to welders, it seems to be that they either get worn out quicker than the machines, or people want to hold on to them. Anyway, that's enough rambling for tonight. I think it's well time to go and have a drink. No, it isn't. No, I'm going to try my new welder. Then I'm going to go have a drink. And I'll let you know how I get on. As usual, thanks for watching. More updates will follow.